Alright guys, welcome to my virtual lesson. I thought we'll do this via remote learning. This is my home. As you can see, I've got a lovely view of Auckland City. There's the Sky Tower right up there. I live quite close to Ardmore Airport, so you might see a few helicopters or airplanes flying nearby. This is my porch. It's not too bad. I mean, it's got a bit of space. The weather's quite good today. Sorry I haven't done much cleaning. It's a bit of a mess at the moment. I have been, doing a little bit of reading during the lockdown. Bit of home renovation. There's still some people on the streets. They're not exactly following quarantine, especially those guys over there. They're not following the 2-meter distance rule. It's a bit of a shame to see. Oi! Yeah. Anyway, this is my place. It's got a nice little conservatory up here. We've got a little pigeon over here. His name's Frank. Say hello to Frank. Hi, Frank. You thirsty, Frank? Have something to drink, Frank? Frank doesn't like me very much. Anyway, here's my little office. It's, kind of where I can do things, away from home, maybe, away from school. Anyway, we're going to be looking at today's lesson. I've got a little whiteboard in here for you. I think it's quite neat, actually. Right, so today we're going to be looking at matter and how it makes up various things. Right, so the first two concepts I want to get or go over are pure substances and impure substances. Right, so in a pure substance, there is only one thing in that substance. Doesn't matter what it is, as long as it's only one thing. Right, so you can't separate it anymore. Impure substances, however, have many things. So we have both this thing here and this thing here. Yep, sweet. Cool. The pure substances, there's only one. So we can only see that there's one type of thing there. There's another one of them there, and there's another one of them there. Right? They can be anything, really, as long as there's only one of them. Here's another example. We've got two of these red balls joined up together. And we've got another pair of these red balls joined up together, and another pair of these red balls joined up together, and another pair, and another pair. You can see where I'm going. There's only one type of thing in this little sort of substance here. Right? We can also go down to the molecules here. We'll get to those soon. However, for these molecules, there is a one molecule here, or one thing here, another one here, another one here, another one here, and another one here. Right, so there's only one type of thing here. So it doesn't matter if they're completely by their lonesome, joined up in a pair, kind of buddy-buddy, happy-happy, or if they kind of got a nice sort of group here, or, little friend clique right there. Doesn't matter, as long as there's only one lump of things there. Cool? Impure substances, on the other hand, so think of this as like a box or a glass or something. I've got two different types of things within this container. Right? This makes it an impure substance. Right? So I've got two red things here, and then two black things here, another two black things here, and another two red things here. Right? Doesn't matter how many I have, as if I've got one that's going to make it an impure substance. Right? Doesn't matter if it's just these little things here. Right, so in this case here we've got two little of the red ones. It could also contain a big mixture. So your impure substance can have a whole bunch of these little green things, one of these things from over here, and these things here. Right, so if it's got a mixture of different types of things, then it's an impure substance. So in this case here, I've got two different types of things. I've got the two black objects and the two red objects. In this case here, I've got the three of the greens. I've got these types of objects here, and I've got two of these red double ball things there. Sweet, cool. What else I want to cover are elements. Okay, so I'm sure you guys have all heard about atoms before. Atoms are almost the smallest thing that you can make matter out of. Cool. So, an element, you'll find them on the periodic table. I don't have one here, unfortunately. Otherwise, I'd sort of put it on the wall. An element is just one type of atom, right? There's only one of them in there. it can have only a single type, right? One type. This is the key word here. Because it can also have more than one atom, but only one type of atom. Yep. To show you what I mean, we'll go over. Let's choose the right color. To show you what I mean, we'll just go over this piece by piece, and I've got 4 examples here, and I'll show you what I mean. All right, cool. So we've got example number 1, numero uno. All right, so is this an element? Yes or no? I'll give you guys a couple of seconds to make up your own minds. Remember, our criteria is it is one type of atom, and there can only, but there can be more than one atom there. All right, as long as it's the same type. Yep, cool. So this here, there's only the little red balls, right? This is an element, so I want to put a big tick there. Sweet, because there's only one type of atom, right? There's only red balls. There can be more, but again, in this case, there's only one of them for each little bit. Over here, we've got another example. This is dos, or two. This is white. I don't know what the French equivalent is. In this case here, there are 2 little red balls. Right, so if we've got a little container here, right, there's only these little particles in here where they've got 2 atoms joined together, and all of them are just these 2 little atoms joined together. They're both the same type of atom because they're both little red balls. So our criteria are, is it for an element, it's got to be one type of atom, right? Have a look, is it one type of atom? But it can be more than one atom in that, in the element, right? Some elements like to sort of pair up. They don't like being alone. They're kind of lonely atoms. So they'll join together and form an element that way, right? So in this case here, the little red circles, they're fine chilling on their own. However, these guys over here maybe want to have a buddy or something, right? So is this number 2? Is it an element? I'll give you guys a few seconds for that. It is an element. Why? Well, it's one type of atom. There's only the red balls in there. However, an element can have more than one atom. So there's 2 atoms there. 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2, and you get the idea. Sweet. Cool. Now we're going to move on to number 3. Alright, so this down here, is it an element? I'll give you guys a few seconds for that. Remember, our criteria are it's got to have one type of element, or one type of atom in there, but there can be more than one atom of that same type. Cool. So this down here is not an element. Why? Because we've got these pesky little green things in there, right? So these little green balls down here are different from the red balls, and they're not the same. Therefore, this is not an element. Yep, so we can have the red balls sitting there by themselves. We can also have the red balls sort of together, like there, etc., sort of as a group, but they're all the same type. Down here, however, we've got some green balls in here, so this is not an element, right? What about this one here? Remember, our criteria are, it's got to have one type of atom, but there can be more than one atom of the same type. Right, so let's have a little look. So we'll have this as number 4. Sweet. Cool, let's get down a bit. Cool. So in here, we've got a red ball, same as before, but you've got 2 little black balls stuck to the top of it, so it looks kind of like a little Mickey Mouse. Right? Our criteria are one type of atom, but there can be more than one atom of the same type. Now in this case here, we've got 2 little black balls attached to our red ball. This means that it's going to be, is it an atom? Sorry, is it an element? The answer? No. Right? Why? Well, in this case here, we've got 2 different types of atoms within each of these little units here. Right? So we've got the little red ball and the black ball. Sweet. Cool. Moving on. The next one are molecules. Right. So in a molecule, A molecule is two atoms of say, the same element or different elements joined together. So they're two or more atoms bound together. They can be of different types of atoms, right? So an element is one type, one, right? But there can be more than one atom as long as it's the same type, like in this case here. However, for a molecule, molecules are more than one, right? So we'll make a little start. Number 1 down here. Is this a molecule? Or is this an example of a molecule? Remember, you got to have more than one atom joined together, but there can be more different types of atoms. They can also have the same types of atoms, right? Doesn't matter as long as there's more than two. Give you guys a few seconds for that. The answer is no, this is not a molecule. It's only these little red balls. We need more than two or more. And there's only the one little red ball here, right? If they were, say, joined together, then we might have a molecule. Which means that I've just given away the answer to number 2. So, number 2, we've got these two little red balls all joined together, right? So that is just one particle of whatever it is what we're trying to look at here. There's two red balls. A molecule, remember, has got to have two or more atoms, and they can be different types of atoms, or they can be the same type of atom, right? We're not going to discriminate here. So, I'll give you guys a few seconds to decide what this is. Is it a molecule or not? The answer is, it is a molecule. Why? Well, we've got two atoms here, 1 and 2, and they're joined together. Yep, so two or more atoms. And they can be different types of atoms, but in this case here, they're the same type. Right? They're both red. We've got this case down here, number 3. Cool. So you might notice that these are exactly the same as those, right? But now instead of looking to see if they're an element, these guys aren't an element, we're trying to see if they are a molecule, right? Cool. So our criteria for if something is a molecule is it's got to have two or more atoms. Do these guys have two or more atoms? Well, there's a 1 there, a 2 there, and a 3 there. So yes, it does tick the first thing. Now, the next criteria is they can be different types of atoms. Are these different types of atoms, or are they the same type of atoms? Well, in this case here, they were the same type. In this case here, they are different types. So yes, they are different types of atoms. Cool. But that doesn't really matter. That's just kind of an extra bit of it too. Right. So, molecules. Two or more atoms can be different types of atoms or the same atoms. So, is this a molecule? Yes. This is just a little representation of a water molecule if that was our oxygen atom and these were both of our hydrogens. Right? Kind of cute. Right, next up, we have compounds. As I mentioned before, yeah, I do live close to Ardmore. There are a few helicopters and a bit of air traffic around the place. Yeah, just ignore that. Alright, so, compounds. A molecule with two or more types of atoms. Yep. Doesn't matter if they're elements, doesn't matter if they're molecules, there's got to be more than two different types of atoms. Sweet. So, we'll do the first one. Number 1. Is it a compound? Remember, our criteria are, it's got to be a molecule with two or more types of atoms. In this case here, we've just got little red circles. There's only one type of atom there, and there's only one particle there. Right? So, no, this is not a compound. Cool. Moving on to number 2. Sweet. So, in this case here, we've got two red balls. We know that these things are a molecule because they meet the criteria of two or more atoms joined together. So these are elements. So this is an element. This is also an element. These are just atoms. These are molecules. Yep. Atoms, singular, just one of them. Molecules, two of them, or two or more. Right? So a compound is a molecule with two or more types of atoms in it. So, Cool. So this number here, 2, they are molecules, but they only have one type of atom in them. So it's these guys, right? Only red atoms. So note, these guys here are not compounds. Sweet. And number 3, I'll label that there. Cool. Alright, and so going back to over here. So a molecule was 2 or more atoms. For something to be a compound, it's got to be a molecule. These, going back to over here, we're on number 3. We correctly identify that these were molecules, right? Because there's more than, because there are 2 or more atoms joined up in each of these little bits here, right? So we've got 1 red, and we've got 2 black, right? More than 2 atoms there. A compound is a molecule with 2 or more types of atoms. So for the first one, there was just 1, it was an element, and it was an atom. For the number 2, it was a molecule, because there were 2 joined up. However, since it's the same type of atom, it is an element. It's not a compound. Because we don't have more than 2 different types of atoms in there. There's only 1 different type, or 1 type. And for number 3, however, we've got red and 2 blacks. For this is a compound. Why? Well, because we've got a molecule with 2 or more types of atoms in it. We've got black and we've got red. They're bonded together, they're 1 unit, they're joined up, so it is a compound. What about this example over here, number 4? Right, so a compound, remember, our criteria is it's got to be a molecule. There are 2 atoms joined together, so this here is a molecule. And it's a molecule with 2 or more types of atoms in it. Right? So this looks very similar to this one up here, number 2, where there is just 2 red balls joined together. Down here, we've got a red ball and a black ball. Right? This wasn't a compound because it had the same type of atom in it. There was only 1 type there. For this down here, there's a red and a black, which means that there's 2 different types of atoms in there. Right? So we've got 1 and 2. Right? So a compound has got to be a molecule. This is a molecule with 2 or more types of atoms in it. And there is 2 different types of atoms in there. So this down here, number 4, is a compound. Sweet. Next up, we're looking at mixtures. Right? So a mixture is a mix of 2 or more elements, molecules or compounds, right? So it's any of these put together and mixed together, right? So for our pure substances, it has to just be 1 of these, right? So it could just be all these red ones put into a jar. It could be these red ones put into a jar, right? It could be this number in here, number 4. Our water molecules could be all them put into a jar, right? It's just a pure substance. It's one thing, right? However, a mixture is a mix of 2 or more. It could be an element, it could be a molecule, it could be a compound. So if I were to say take this, right? They're just the single red balls, right? And I mix in some of the double red balls, right? That there is a mixture, right? Doesn't matter that they're all red balls, right? What matters is that this one here is different to this one here, right? So let's give it another go. Difficult to get into this corner. Right? Sweet. So, say we could have 2 black balls and 2 black balls. We can also have a compound with a black ball and a red ball. Alright? And we can also have our green balls. right? Again, this here is a mixture. We've got an element here, and an element here, an element here because they're the same type. They're also molecules because there's more than one atom there. And we also have a compound here, a red and a black, right? So a mixture can be a mix of two or more. It could be either an element, right? There. It could be a molecule, there. Or it could be a compound, or any one of these, right? Put together, mix it together, and you have a mixture, right? The cool thing about mixtures is that we can separate them out, right? So if you put, say, salt into water, right, you can get the water out, you can get the salt out. However, I mean, that's quite easy to do. However, if you've got, say, water, instead, right, so that was what, 2 black. Yeah, there we go. 2 black ones there, right? So we could separate water and start breaking this down. Ooh, a bit difficult to get into these corners. Right, we could try to break these down into, say, both blue, black ones and red ones and separate them out, but that's going to be a lot more difficult. Right, it's a lot easier separating out a mixture than it is, say, breaking down a molecule. Cool. That's pretty much all I wanted to cover today. I hope you guys are having fun in your lockdown, in your little bubbles. I've got to get myself some more coffee. I've got to get myself some more coffee, and I've also got to say hi to Fred the pigeon over there, and probably get back to my gardening as well. Hi, Fred. Bye.